Oh, good morning, good morning. How is everyone today? Gee whiz, hasn't the week flown? Dr. J, Steve Jensen from Impact Training. I'm sure you all know who I am by now. Look, it's been a while since I've been on doing the tips, and I thought I'd take the opportunity because I'm in the office on Friday, which is quite unusual, to be able to go through something that I speak to most people about, which is closing. So I'll wait till a few people pop on. If it's, I know it's pretty early in the morning, you're probably off to work, but if a few people are ready to rock and roll, I'll wait for a few people to pop on. And let's see how you're going. By the way, please say hi in the group. Please start to connect. This is the Sales Success Club, so we want to talk about people's successes. And what we do want to do is to make sure that we can get people to connect with people. So if you're talking to each other, share ideas, things that that's working, but also if you've got some challenges, put them in the group. And I'm sure with nearly 400 and plus people, we'll be able to collaborate and help you out. Well, I'll wait a few more moments before we get kicking on. It's in Sydney, a grey old day, and it's quite chilly over here. If you're got a few people over in Europe that'd be hopping on, so it's cold here in Sydney, and it's not as cold as getting in Europe though. All right. Well, look, we've been going for about a minute or so, so people probably are busy at work. I'm sure you'll see the replay. One of the big things I get asked on a regular basis when I go to nearly every business, be it large or small, is we've got to make more sales. Well, that's what we do. We help people convert. But it is interesting that when I ask the managers or the sales managers what they're talking about, they're usually a plethora of things, such as, oh, look, it's the staff, or, the amount of leads we've got and what we're not doing. And it's usually what's not happening. Hi there, Craig. How you going? Good to see you, my friend. And if you're talking about what's not happening, you're going to perpetuate what's not happening. We don't have enough leads. We're not closing enough. Or this person's doing this person's not doing that. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things you should be talking about. Let me just make it really clear. What you talk about most becomes important. Not what's not happening, but what is happening. The first thing you need to have is a target. And in the Sales Authority Club, when we did our planning, it was quite interesting where a number of our members were asking us about their target and budget. The target and budget I'm talking about is specifically for sales. Do you have a target for your sales? In other words, units, another number of sales. Now, you might have gross revenues, but you need to have an average yield per sale. A target is always better to shoot for, and you should always have a check-in with your team about how we're traveling on target. There's no good having a complaint about it or moan about it at the end of the month if you haven't spoken about it throughout the month on a daily or weekly basis. What you talk about most becomes important, and I'll say it regularly throughout this little session, because if you talk about your target and what we can do to achieve target, instead of saying, gee whiz, we're not achieving target, we've got to do more, let me just tell you right now, that perpetuate not achieving target. Hello, Philip, how you going? Talk about your budgets and targets like we were chatting about this morning. So it's actually critical that you have your sales budget. Then you add a little bit more for your sales target. Are you talking about it regularly? Well, I recommend that businesses actually, if there's a target for sales, it actually should be big and bold in the staff room and everyone sees it. So perpetuating going backwards. In other words, if you need 100 sales or you need 7 sales, you see a big sign. Well, in the olden days, I used to put a bit of butcher's paper and we just used to tear it off and say, oh, only 99 to go. And it used to go backwards, and then it went to +1 and +2. So people used to get really excited about that. We talked about it and spoke about it on a regular basis, and we celebrated wins, and we said, gee whiz, we're a little bit behind. What have we got to do to catch up? Instead of say, it's not good enough, we're behind, we've got to make more sales. All of a sudden, that perpetuates the negative. The other thing I'm going to ask you is, do you have benchmarks? What's a benchmark? A benchmark are the percentages or the minimums that you require. For instance, if you have a show percentage or show rate, what's the minimum benchmark? What's the minimum close rate benchmark? In many businesses where it's belly to belly, let's say a membership-based business, it usually is around about that 60 to 80% benchmark. And a show rate's around about the same. If it's a booked appointment to sale percentage that gets presented, it's usually a little bit lower, at 45 to 65%. And if it goes above that, that's a little bit of hay. What are your benchmarks? Hi there, Tracy. Hey, Darren. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Benchmarks. Do you have them? Are you talking about them? Are you measuring them? Because if they're just benchmarks and you just have a moan about it at the end of the month, what you're talking about is the negative component, which actually perpetuates failure. So do you have your target, your budget? Added a little bit for your target, and it's a sales budget and a unit. These are things that need to be spoken about regularly, and I recommend that you get a debrief every single day. We'll talk about a little bit of the debriefs afterwards, because then you've got something to talk about. Okay. Hello, Catherine. How you going? Good to see you. Kate, you're a big doer, my friend. One of the things I also recommend is that you have a month-to-date sales component. With the end of the day, I want to make sure that you have a month-to-date. In other words, how we're progressing, like that butcher's paper. Always have your team talking about what's your month-to-date figure. If you do this well, you can then start looking at your show rates and close rates. In other words, they are things that you'd be talking about on a regular basis. An appointment show rate is someone that's booked to see you, or you see them, or it's a Zoom online. Do they show up? That's a show rate. A close rate is if they actually purchase, whether it's straight away or later on. And a booked presentation to close rate is usually the best one, because then you can measure that. The other thing that you need to talk about are things that are going well. Talk about the good things and then coach the bad. And then at the end of the day, if there needs to be coaching and a little bit more, let's say a wrap up on someone's poor results, coaching is important. But make sure that you don't expect people to do things that haven't been trained. I was in a business just about 2 weeks ago, and they were asking people to do tons of things that they'd never been trained. They said, yep, we can do that. The manager and owner knew how to do it. They thought their team would know it by osmosis. That's a formula for disaster. All right, well, the next point is, do you really need more leads? Well, at the end of the day, the data tells the story. And isn't it interesting, if we look at our conversions, if we get a lead, what is the lead to sale conversion? Are you converting most of your leads? And most people say, yeah, I am. But when we do a deep dive into their numbers, they're not. The numbers are critical, but most people say they know their numbers, but they're really not measuring or not actually writing them down. So the numbers are a little bit, let's say, giving you a false security. Many businesses say they have very strong closing percentages, but most of the presentations that don't get sold don't get written down. So all of a sudden, there's a false economy here. So do you have those benchmarks, and are you measuring how many leads actually come in? Now, what's a lead? A lead is a name. And by the way, a lead is not someone that's in a telephone book. That's just a list. Leads and lists are different. But a lead is something that actually is somebody that you might have got a name from a web lead. But it doesn't become an inquiry until you've actually spoken to them. So what's your call to contact percentage? How many calls do you need to actually do? This is a conversion. Call to contact is critical. Hi there, Jason. How you going? Lovely to see you. My goodness. I'd love to make sure that you guys are really clear on this data, because the data tells the story. Because at the end of the day, what are you saying when you get hold of that lead? Now, isn't it interesting that this day and age, everyone thinks that we can shoot from the hip? And I work with some incredibly successful salespeople all around the world. And the number one people, the people in the top 10%, are the people, when they take a call or make a call or connect with somebody, they have a prompt. They don't have a script, they have a prompt. They know how to use the prompt and go off the page. Question: are you using a prompt with your telephone prompts and going off the page? Do you have a prompt that actually reminds you what to say? Now, if you've done thousands of phone calls, you'll know what to say. But sometimes you just got to keep it on track. Now, if you've got new people on board, let me just tell you right now, do not give them a prompt to start using on the phone. Get them to practice the prompt so it becomes natural and they can go off the page. That takes time. Don't let new people practice on your prospects. So are you actually having a conversation where we get a contact that lead to contact and then contact to booked appointment that shows? Do we really need more leads? Have we got our lead to contact? Is our contact to booked appointment? Is the booked appointment to show high? Is the show to buy high too? So these are conversions. That's why I say conversions are the key. Are you measuring those? Now, you might have a small conversion here, and that might all of a sudden you say, well, it's a crummy lead. Is it? Is it a crummy person? You don't know that. Usually, from my experience, it's usually poor connection. We haven't asked the right questions. If the person's not qualified, okay, I get that. But what are those percentages? Are you actually increasing the show percentage or the interest in using your USPs, your unique selling points, and actually telling them we are the only, we're the first? On the telephone, are you inspiring them with stuff that they don't know? They say, wow, you're an expert, I've got to come and see you, or you've got to come and see me straight away. And if the sales are low, but you don't have a secondary spend, which usually has a higher yield, maybe you need to look at actually putting in a secondary spend. In other words, something that they would buy once they're using your product and or service. Secondary spend sales are becoming quite common these days and actually increasing yield. So you don't have to have more sales, you just have to make sure they're worth more. Big rule here in secondary spend though, guys, I can assure you, people that sell secondary spend that people don't need are not looked on favorably. So do you really need more leads? So go back and see what is that lead, the actual name that comes through to sale percentage, and actually measure that. That's a big, let's say, statistic that needs to be measured. This is called converting to make more sales. This is conversions. People sometimes think when I say conversions, it's all about closing the sale at the end. Well, hang on a tick. No, it's actually from the very beginning, that lead to contact. I'll say it again, lead to contact, contact to booked appointment for you to go see them, or you to go see, or what's next, a link that could be sent. There needs to be a what's next. And then there's a contact or lead sent to sell percentage. What are your conversions? Hope you're training your team to do this and making sure you're reinforcing what they already know. Now, the next thing is, what is the mindset that actually increases? Well, it's pretty easy. The mindset that we find, especially in this day and age, it's a one chance mindset. Now, what's that? If we only had one chance to help that person get involved with your product and or service, what would you do? What would you do? Would you practice a little bit more? Would you make sure that your presentation is really clear? Would you have your unique selling points really, really specific for that person? Would you listen to them instead of selling to them? What are you doing to have that one chance mindset? The mindset goes hand in hand with the what next mindset. What's next? Once I've gone through the presentation and we're getting to the wrap up, what's next? Is it going to buy? Is it going to send a link? Is it what? Do you get permission to follow up? Follow up is usually, if there's no decision to the what next you need, follow up is a symptom of a poor presentation or not asking them the right questions. Now that can be repaired, but get permission to follow up. If you don't get permission in this day and age to follow up, let me tell you right now, your conversion's going to be crummy. They will not pick up the phone because guess what? You're not ringing up to be their friend. You're ringing up to actually sell them something, and they've already said no the first time, even if it's belly to belly. Get permission. Now, if your mindset is about helping the person, make sure you always put in your unique selling position or point. What makes you different in the marketplace? Hey there, Chris. How you going, my friend? Good to see you. What makes you different in the marketplace? Isn't it interesting? We talk to businesses all over the place, and they say they have their USPs, but they don't use them. In other words, they tell people stuff that they have that are not really exciting, and then they don't turn up. In other words, they'll go somewhere else that does have a USP. So are you doing that? And confirm you're helping. Stop this selling and go to helping. Make sure that you do whatever you can do. If you want to convert, stop selling. Be genuinely talking to somebody and say, hey, look, I really want to help you. Even if they give you an objection, have that pushback. And one of the big challenges I find, if you have a mindset that actually is a one chance mindset, are you actually finding out what their compelling reason is? What's a compelling reason? A compelling reason is, what is the pain? What is the thing they need fixed? And it's clear. And it's clear on what the ramifications are if they don't fix it. In other words, is the pain of having that challenge or problem or worry greater than the pain of giving you some cash or some security or giving you time? If you haven't done that, you haven't done it right the first time. So that one chance mindset is going to come unstuck, because you're going to have a second chance and a third chance to see. You go back to it. Most of the time, follow-up is a result in actually giving something for free or a discount or something. So one chance makes a massive difference in conversion. One of the things I find that really makes a massive difference is if someone actually doesn't buy from you, it's called a coat hanger. The coat hanger is something quite simple. And the coat hanger is saying, hey, Steve or Chris or Jason or Neil. Hey, Neil, how you going? Good to miss you there. The coat hanger is saying, hey, look, I know you wanted to fix this. I know you needed help there. I know you needed a new place. I know you needed the financial advice. I know you need to lose the weight. I know you need to make sure you have some peace of mind and relax a little bit. I don't know how important that is to you. And what could I have done differently to help you get rid of whatever the problem is? And they'll say, oh, nothing. You just say, no, you came here with a reason. You're not moving forward. What can I do differently? How can I help you? And say it genuinely, obviously. Hey, Gavin, good to see you, my friend. Ask that question. I know you were here for a reason. You've told me all your stuff. You found the compelling reason. You've thrown in USPs. But guess what, guys? You're not buying from you. What's gone wrong? Did they not like you? Well, they won't tell you that. I know it's a lot. What could I do differently to help you move on? Sometimes it's not about what they think they're going to get. It's what they think they won't get. So there is a process. And for those of you in the Sales Authority Club, in the videos, it actually shows you how to do the attitude adjustment close. I know it sounds like a closing technique, but it's actually quite simple. You just change the attitude. Instead of actually having an attitude that it's not going to work or it's going to be a mistake, you change the attitude as what happens if it works. I know it's a bit of extra time. I know it's a little bit more money. But think 6 months from now, and this is all sorted out or whatever it may be, and it had worked, would it be worth it? Let them ponder that. This conversion is the key. One chance, what's next? One chance, what's next? Measure those KPIs from that lead to contact. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a conversation with people. Let me make it really clear to you. If we don't do a good job when we're doing our presentations, you can get as many leads as you like. I'm actually inundated with people saying, oh, we don't have enough leads. Let me tell you right now, it's not your leads. Get your conversion sorted out, and don't give yourself the fictitious numbers that you're playing with that you really don't know. Get those conversions right and I'm good to go. Guys, if you're still out there, give me some thumbs up and so forth. Let me know I'm not just chatting to myself. We've got a few people still on. And for those of you listening to the recording, please tell me what you're going to do with some of these things for you to think about and implement. Okay. The what's next protocol. Thanks, guys. The what's next protocol is a skill to master. This is the decision-making modality. After you've done all your chit chat and your explanation, your demonstration, or sending them all the bits and pieces, the whole mindset, and a lot of salespeople miss this, guys, and I just want to make sure we're really clear here. What's next? After you've done everything, you've got to have a decision. Little decisions along the way make the big decisions a small decision. What's next? What are we going to do next? What's the time? How many times? How often? How quickly are you going to get delivery? What's next? It's the what next mentality after doing the thing properly, I can assure you, increases the probability of making the decision, I don't like the word close, the decision easy. So have in the back of your head, is it going to be, oh, I'm going to follow you up? That's what's next? We'll get permission to do that. Just wave a red flag here, guys. Follow up is really hard yakka. Do it right the first time. Have a what's next to the thing they need to do. It could be sending them a link, getting some paperwork filled in, doing a preliminary discussion, going through preliminary planning, giving them a trial. I don't know, but what's next? Don't have a follow-up call to find out what's next. That's a big mistake, big mistake. Thanks, Jace. You're a legend, mate. You're a legend. Stevie, the hamster, the chipmunk, he's back. How are you, my friend? Gee, all the good people on today. Thanks, guys, for joining me. So what's next? Get permission. And if you're going to do follow-up, if you're going to do stuff, for goodness sake, please follow up with new material. Say, hey, Stephen, hey, Gavin, Chris, I might not have told you this last time when we spoke. Boom, you'll get an opportunity. Open the door just quickly. I believe you only get probably 2 chances. 3 would be at a big stretch. So make sure if you do follow up, you have permission to and go with new material. Conversion's the key. Now, the last thing I want to cover here is, hey, what are you doing to convert? Well, the thing you need to make sure you're very good at mastering is getting decisions. Decision making is the process that we talk about, you know, test closing and pro closing and so forth. Hi there, James. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me. How often are you testing the temperature? They recommend that you do a minimum of 11 test closes, getting a yeses or nos of small decisions. There are decisions, not a maybe. These are skills to master. These are decisions. The process that gives you best bang for buck is learning how to get people to make small decisions so the big decisions are easy. So when you get to the big decision, how are you going to do your presentation? Now, many people's sequencing on price presentation is completely overload on numbers, which means the person goes into logical rhetoric, they'll got to think about it, shop around, and they're out the door. If you want to close a sale, make sure that your pricing, your numbers are easy to understand. Don't just do it in an auditory modality. Don't just tell them. Make sure you write it or you present it on a tariff or on a piece of paper that you write, or you show it on an iPad, whatever you do. But do not just tell them in an auditory modality about the numbers. Why? Because if you actually just tell them about the numbers, some people don't remember numbers. They'll nod their head quite comfortably and you think everything's going great, and they'll give you an objection, they're out the door. Do it right the first time. Now, we take a whole day and some to actually teach people a sequencing modality. Sequencing is making sure that you're presenting the numbers in a way which does not go logically all the time. Remember, the logical brain has no decision-making functionality. The emotional brain, the green brain that we've talked about for many, many years, is the one where all decisions are made. So when we're doing all these numbers, guess what? The guy's going to go into logical conversation and no decision. No decision is a no, by way of definition. So at the end of the day, are you getting decisions? That is the skill set you really got to master, the decision-making model. Now, it's not just the close, it's like small decisions along the way. Now, there are a number of ways to do this. There's a tariff close. This is becoming quite popular again. If you're doing a tariff close, which is on a sheet or on a iPad and so forth, make sure you have a sequence that you actually show the prices and how you do it. If it's going to be written, make sure there's a sheet that you just write on so it's really easy to understand. There needs to be a sequence. We haven't got time to do it today. We've only got half an hour. But let me make it very clear. Once you've actually shown them the prices and what the investment will be, you've got to make a decision on how you're going to ask. This is the skill to, is getting that decision. Now, in all my days there, I know there's hundreds and thousands of different ways to close, but the keeping closing and asking is a skill set that I recommend that you practice all the time. Hello, Marie, how you going? Nice to see you. At the end of the day, it's absolutely critical you're able to ask for the decision, the money, the contract, the paperwork to be completed. Not practiced, done awkwardly most of the time, Biggest bang for buck for your skill set is get decisions and making sure that your closing sequence to make that final decision to fill in the paperwork and give you the cash is fluent, it has confidence, and it's full of absolute help. Go from selling to helping. And make sure that you finish off with a question after you've closed about an emotion or what they're going to do, something they're going to do that will solicit an emotional trigger, that will shut off the red brain and put on the green brain, and guess what? Boom, you'll have less and less objections. Now, there are 3 ways that I would recommend that you do this. The best way to do this is either a prescriptive close. This is from an expert's point of view. You present it, well, this is what you want to do. I know you don't want this. This is what I would recommend you do, and da-da-da-da-da, and let's rock and roll. So you are prescribing something that is going to help that person. Remember, don't sell them anything. Don't sell them anything. You might say, well, I'm selling something. That's what you call it. If I'm sitting in that chair, you're showing me how you're going to help me. Am I going to give you my security, my time, because I need your expertise? Prescriptive closing is the way to go if you are coming from an expert's point of view. Assumptive closing is when you've actually had so much rapport, everything is going fantastically. You say, I know you're going to rock and roll, we're going to do this. You've got that massive rapport, and assumptive closing, let's push ahead. And at the end of the day, if they say no at the end, that's when you overcome an objection. But assumptive closing is done with confidence, not arrogance. You might have a number of different things. You might say, this is not you, we'll start with this, we'll rock and roll, and let's get you organized for the A, B, and C, or we'll get delivery organized, or we'll start your financial plan, and let's start giving you relaxation and making sure you have some peace of mind. All right, are we excited about it? A bit more relaxed now? That's green. Excited, a bit more relaxed? Green. That's a decision. These are simple things. Some of you probably know it. Some of my crew that have been training for years, I'm sure it's repetition, but that's the mother of learning. Last rock and roll is once you've got your closing sequences right and you have a prescriptive or assumptive, the other type, which is quite okay, is a choice. And don't ask them which one do they want. Ask them what sort of person they are. What sort of person are you? Are you A, B, or C? Or you're A or B? Triplicate of choice or alternative choice? So you either prescribe, that's what you're going to do from an expert. You're going to assume because we've had a great chat and I know we're on board, or you can give them a choice. My recommendation is prescriptive or assumptive. That's just, I believe people want to be led. They don't want to be sold. All right. Now, how do we put this in action? I wanted to give you some golden nuggets today to be able to put this into place. One of the things that I find is a real challenge out there in any business, in every business that I go to, is there's not absolute clarity on the sales process. Guys, trust the process. The outcome will take place. But for goodness sake, update the process. A lot of businesses are not streamlining their sales model. They're using old school methods which just don't work anymore. You're burning those leads that everyone screams for. It's so critical that your process is really clear and easy to do, but people need to know the parts of your process. So that needs to be training reinforced with practice. So make sure that if you're going to use a prescriptive close, you know what your benchmarks are, you know what your sales protocols are. You find out, do I really need leads? When you look at, well, what's my conversion? Once you've got all that sorted out and you start going into, so how are we going to get the what's next, the decision, make sure that you and your team have updated or know your process. Trust the process, the outcome will take place. Recommendation for those of you who've done lots of training with me in the past, you will know this by no problem at all. It's a role play, practice, drill, rehearse, PDR. Make sure you practice your closing sequencing, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So you hear it 6 times. You'll get 62% retention. Recommendation, you do that 5 times. 3 times, and then 5 times throughout the week. So in 5 days. If you are practicing a skill that you are weak in 5 times, 3 times a day, well, that's 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, which is really 6. I usually then do another 3 to make sure it's on track, and then just 1 for good measure. That means it becomes an embedded command. That means you create a neural pathway so you can actually present with confidence. Stilted presentations just really push people away. Now, the way to do this is do it with a buddy. Do it with somebody that, if you're a master, you can train them. Do not do it with someone that's not as skilled as you. Make sure you're training and processing a protocol which you can reinforce with someone else if you're the master. But always try to role play and do that PDR, that practice, drill, rehearse with somebody that is better than you. And if you can't, that's fine, but make sure you do it. The practice and drill, rehearse will always make sure that you become better at a skill set. If you don't practice, it's always going to be, I heard that before, Dr. J said this, I read a book, I saw a seminar, and you're not doing it. Small wins. Don't always crack to get that 80% close rate, but if I'm 45 and it's now 55, celebrate the wins. Okay, guys, we've come to the end of a little business tip and sales tip for today. I hope you implement some bits and pieces. Let me know how you go, and we'll see you very soon. Got some really good, a big announcement to make though. For those of you stuck around, we've actually launched our Sales Authority Club. Yes, we're in a soft launch period at the moment. It's a Sales Authority Club where we do lots of training. We've got videos, we've got quarterly events, we've got regular business tips. We have, experts coming on with great ways to market, leadership, and so forth. And got a small group that we put together. If you're interested in becoming part of that club, just put a comment down the bottom. I'd love to have, we're keeping the groups nice and small. We're going to be meeting in Sydney, doing all the soft skills training face-to-face quarterly. So I'm really excited about it. It's called the Sales Authority Club. And everyone that gets started now is going to get the full series of videos and workbooks. And you can actually use them to train your staff, all done for you. So we're really excited about that. It's been in the making for the last 12 months. So we've launched it as a softie. If you're interested, let us know in your comments. We'll send you a sales growth plan and we'll have a chin wag. Okay, thanks for joining me today. Put things into practice, implement, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.